by Raymond Briggs is a story about two peaceable old folk who have to face up to a nuclear war. Most people are aware of this because Briggs's tale has already been produced as a book, a radio play and a stage play. But now it's an animated film as well. Made by the same outfit that brought us Yellow Submarine and The Snowman, it opened yesterday with its central characters voiced by Dame Peggy Ashcroft and Sir John Mills. Raymond Briggs himself has expressed a preference for the radio version, which is an odd thing for an illustrator to say, but perhaps not untypical of Briggs's Eeyore-like attitude to life in general. But clearly there are problems when a full-length animation has only two characters and rather limited settings, and a theme which becomes increasingly depressing. Among the subterfuges the producers used to overcome these drawbacks were three-dimensional sets that fill out the image. Here's how they went about it.
I think the book would be all that popular anyway because it's a very grim subject. Although it's sort of black comedy, I didn't think that many people would buy it except people in the peace movement and people of that kind, and I was surprised that it was much a bestseller as it was. It's gone into about 8 or 9 different languages and sold hundreds of thousands. Very strange, really. I do like the radio play a lot, partly because it's the first radio play I've ever done, and it was a marvellous experience doing it, working with such terrific people.
Here we are, see? Protect and Survive, and the Householder's Survival Guide. Now, this one should be really authoritative. It's printed by the County Council. We better commence the construction of the inner core or refuge immediately, dear. We must do the correct thing.
There's treacle tart and custard or cold bread and butter pudding.
Treacle tart.
I didn't sort of imagine it, really, because I couldn't imagine it, not being a filmmaker, not knowing what this new technique of animation they're using would do. So, I can't say it's as I imagined it, but I thoroughly approve of the way it's turned out. It's the way I'd do it if I knew how to do it.
It all began when we were making The Snowman, and got to know Raymond Briggs quite well, and we were in production. And this Christmas 5 years ago, the publishers gave me a copy of When the Wind Blows to take home and read about 5 months before it was published. This is the actual copy. As you can see, it was a dummy on the outside, so there was no means of knowing what it was about. I took it home and I got the flu, and I took this book to bed with me to cheer me up, thinking it was like Father Christmas or The Snowman or other Raymond Briggs, Fungus the Bogeyman, that type of book. And I ended up half an hour later with tears running down my cheeks at the very tail end of the story. And I knew instantly who ought to direct it. Jimmy and I have known each other for nearly 30 years now, and I phoned him in Dublin, sent him this actual one over to read, and with the help of Channel 4 development money that same summer, we actually began to get started.
When John sent me the book, I immediately, because the subject matter just sort of interested me right away, being an adult cartoon, so-called cartoon. It's more like a drama in drawing, you know, and there was going to be a bit of a problem when I thought being inside constantly, you know, I mean, even at the best of live action, you have to keep the interest going for an hour and a half, you know. So when John asked me to work on it, the first problem was to try to resolve that in my head. So I came up with a storyboard, which is really almost like a shooting script, you know, where we get all the interest to see with the camera angles and all that. And it'd be treated like live action. So the original concept was going to be live action backgrounds using models. And then just because of the cost factor, we came up with another idea using photographic backgrounds, which is a similar sort of technique as live action, but we have more control over being able to reproduce it and eliminate the obstacles of going into sort of matting the cartoon characters over it, to which now we can just go into straight animation, you know, with the realistic backgrounds, and keeping sort of a pace of cutting like you would cut live action, you know. Otherwise, we would have been stuck with painting every scene and every second, which is each background would have taken 2 days to paint. When we shot the background, we actually used three-dimensional models just for setup, like for scaling, and also just for color as well. So we get the lighting. This is the set after the bomb. I mean, we only had one set, you know, and the ones before the bomb was obviously this very, very kind of slick and nice, you know. And then it took us 3 days to destroy it, and we had to sort of, when we destroyed it, we had to be very careful not to make it look too ugly, you know. Sort of, yeah, I mean, obviously we're taking liberties saying that the bomb actually does burn inside the house, you know. But the only place it didn't touch is inside the shelter. You know, that was the only thing that's how.
The next project they have in mind is Briggs's Fungus the Bogeyman, with cartoon backgrounds and live actors, including Bob Hoskins as Fungus.